Gaffer, how's the mood in the camp after Blackpool?
Yeah, it's okay. Went through some parts of the game again this morning, and then leading into Carlisle this afternoon. So, yeah, it's sort of like a mix. Some parts of the game are very good, and then there's parts that I need to be better. But yeah, the mood's sort of, it's okay.
You've had obviously time to reflect a little bit the last few days. Can we take some real positives from certainly the first half in particular?
Probably about the first 60 minutes, 65 minutes. Yeah, but it's difficult. Look, when you go 2-0 up, to be that positive on the night. But in terms of since then, yeah, there's positives in terms of how we played. And I think probably in that sort of last 30 minutes, or even parts of the first half, I thought we got a bit safe. Look, the reason why we were 2-0 up was actually how brave we were to play in a stadium that maybe not the team, but myself has found quite tough, particularly that first 5-10 minutes. I just needed more belief in terms of what we're doing, and carrying it on will give us a better chance of winning games. So yeah, the first part of the game was very good, and then there's another part where, in fairness to Blackpool, particularly the last 30 minutes or so, they had chances, but we should definitely be 3-1 up in the game, and so in terms of that, it's probably the ruthlessness that probably shows in the league position. Yeah.
Came across a stat recently. I think it said we have the lowest average age in the division based on minutes played so far this season. As a manager, players, fans, staff, obviously we all want to win. We want to win every week. But is that something that we I suppose, have to remember a little bit in terms of the fact we're probably still in that rebuild phase to an extent?
I think that's probably been the hardest part this season for me, is that the age things, yeah, I guess it's always there. It's maybe evolved that way a little bit through the window and how it kind of worked out. But in terms of the stage of the club, yeah, that's been the hardest part. I think I've said this before, where actually trying to, you don't dampen expectations of a support. I don't think you should ever do that, because it then, like, what are they coming to watch? I think it's, yeah, there's lots behind that. I think myself, previously, I definitely said I want to be less patient this year, and probably having to find, or I am finding myself having to be more patient than what I probably expected. In terms of where we are as a club in the phase of this sort of rebuild, yeah, where you want to be further ahead. You want to compete for top 2. You want to be in the top 6. I think fighting for 6th is still definitely realistic. I think where I have to be patient in terms of certain parts of our performance, like that ruthlessness, and maybe that is actually connected to experience, age in certain positions. But we have what we have, so it's my job to try and actually get the team to perform in certain areas the way that I want. The actual rebuild of the club is, I think it's probably worth more time, I think, on that, and more detail. I think there's some really good things from obviously where we've been in the last 18 months. I think for my part, it's the only thing you see is media interviews and results on the pitch. I think for my job, and it's maybe not always going to be the same for me as a manager, it might not even be the same for me here at this club, is that there is so much off the pitch as well that that I have to achieve. Lots of things. So I think it's in terms of what the club lose each year, and that and bringing that down. The success within that is not exciting for support. It's not a big thing, but it's actually a big part of my job. Part of this rebuild is, yeah, there's certain things I have to achieve that aren't always results, but the main thing as a manager is always results on the pitch. So it's trying to marry those two, and obviously we're doing quite well off the pitch in terms of trying to rebuild the club. And I mean, we're at the very early stages, but I need to get the results on the pitch better. Yeah, that's the main part at the moment.
Talk about results, we look ahead to the FA Cup on Saturday, and you made a few changes in the game against Blackpool. Injury-wise, is there anybody in particular of a concern? And Jensen Ware's missed the last couple.
Jensen's trained today, so he'll be fighting to be in the squad this weekend. Baba trained today, but is a little bit touch and go, just because I want to see him again training tomorrow, so I'm not sure. And then, no, just, I'm not going to, this isn't a game to make loads of changes. If there's anything tactical and specific from Blackpool that I want to change, I will. But no, we'll be putting out the strongest team possible that I think will win the game or give us the best chance to win the game. So, no, it's a competition we've got history in. What I do know is it will be nothing like the game in the Bristol Street Motors. Absolutely nothing. I actually really like Carlisle's atmosphere at the stadium. It's like a really old school stadium. I know they're doing a lot of work internally, but when they get the momentum, that I really like the atmosphere. So it's going to be a proper cup tie. And one thing I liked about Blackpool was at the very beginning we had to match a fight, and Blackpool are very dangerous to get the ball forward really quickly. We matched that to start with. We're going to have to do the same with Carlisle, maybe in a different way, because they look to really try and play. The big onus on our team, and I know we have some younger ones, but we have to win the fight, and then the sort of talent or the tactical work will come through. But without the fight, the rest doesn't matter.
We obviously had a good run last season in the FA Cup, which culminated in the Man United fixture. It's an exciting competition, isn't it? It's a competition that obviously is very close to our hearts, given the history. But is it a nice, as manager and players, is it nice to have that kind of different competition from the week-to-week league environment? Do you know what? Look, I know the history of the club, and I actually do really like. Even before when we won it, even before then, actually. The history of the FA Cup, even though I'm from Aberdeen, it's like the history of the English FA Cup it's strong. Some of my first memories of football is from the FA Cup, so it is a special feeling to participate in it again. In terms of the actual game, it does feel very similar to every other game in terms of preparation, but I know that when that game starts, the crowd will be different, the intensity is completely different. Because you know the result and whether you progress or not literally happens in that game. So yeah, it's a brilliant competition. I know our history, but even before then, it brings out a different side to you in these games. And just finally, obviously Charlie White was with us last season. Had a really bad injury recently for Carlisle, and a real shame for Charlie, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually only found out today the extent. I thought it was. I didn't realise the extent of the injury to his ankle. I thought it was pretty similar to Michael's injury actually. So when I found out today the extent, yeah, it's a horrendous injury. A really good man. Obviously, even before I came here, extremely popular, and been through a hell of a lot. So yeah, I just hope he gets back as quickly as he can. In a really good place physically, and then look, he's a brilliant player, a brilliant finisher. I remember him at Sunderland being an absolute monster in the box. So yeah, I wish him well. The same with Jordan really as well. I know Jordan's injury is less severe, but yeah, these guys. Charlie was a big part of why we stayed in the league last year for the start of the season, and probably on the opposite, Jordan, the way that he was in sort of that middle to end was a huge part of why we stayed up. So yeah, brilliant people, and I've got a lot to thank them for what they did for me.